Hello, everyone, and welcome to this episode of Emotional Eating Unwrapped. I am so excited because today I have one of my clients who has gone through my sober eating method. We've worked together, and she's such an inspiration. So, Katie, welcome to the podcast. So happy to be with you today. So happy to see you. Welcome.
Thank you so much. I'm thrilled to be here, and it's always so funny to hear you say I'm an inspiration because really you've been my inspiration in this process, or I would say journey over the last 10 months. 10 months, yeah. Um, so as Alana said, my name's Katie Hoover. I live in Charleston, South Carolina. I found Alana over social media, so I was very grateful for whatever targeted ad popped up on my Instagram feed, and we'll go into a little bit more about what drew me to reach out to Alana. But I am a pharmacist. I work for Pfizer. I have two kids, so busy life, two kids, two dogs. So
Yeah.
a lot going on.
Yeah. So I wanted to bring you on here today because so many people ask me what it's like to go through the method. And I think it's so important to hear from someone and from people specifically who have struggled with emotional eating in their own way, um, gone through the methodology and come out the other side like you have, I believe, successfully and living your life in a beautiful, high quality, high value way. So I'd love to hear what first inspired you to reach out, what you were looking for, maybe what you had done in the past, how long you had been struggling. I'd love to hear that.
Okay, so it is a long, long story. I think my disordered eating really began when I was about 10 or 11 years old. It was this vicious cycle where I had some body dysmorphia, but it was also in that sort of like round preteen phase that I think most humans go through. It's normal. But for me, it was very uncomfortable. And so I just stopped eating altogether. And then this positive feedback came in because, then all of a sudden I was popular and I was making sports teams. And so all of these things started happening at such a young age. And it's like, it's a little bit devastating to think about how much that altered uh, just sort of my childhood and moving forward. And my parents really tried everything that they could, therapists and different programs. And eventually I got into high school, and I loved playing basketball, and they said, you have to be 100 pounds or you can't try for basketball. And so that really set me on was a good course correction. I was uh, very motivated to play sports, and I did throughout all of high school, and I was really pretty good for a few years, and then sort of towards the end of high school, I um, discovered binging and purging, and that became really a coping mechanism for me. And that continued really, I would say, from age 18 until uh, 10 months ago.
Mhm.
So, and I think there's been different, certainly, on and off phases, but it was always in the background. It was always there. And it was something that it really just had become part of my toolbox for dealing with stress, for dealing with uncomfortable feelings, my 20s and my 30s. And yeah, so that's a little bit about the long, long history and some of the things that I tried. I think when I first signed up, I was like, I've tried everything. And I really didn't have this rose-colored vision that that sober eating method was going to be a silver bullet. I kind of had this like skeptical lens on, because I think when you've tried so many things for such a long time, you become you lose a lot of hope that something's actually going to stick. So I don't know, I could probably write a book on all the different therapists that I've seen, like almost like my own personal Yelp review for therapists in the area that I live in. And then when virtual therapy became a thing, I even saw therapists outside of my geographical area, and they were all wonderful and served a purpose, but it never got me to where I wanted to be in terms of my relationship with food, my relationships to stress and food.
Yeah, I mean, I think your story, first of all, thank you so much for sharing all of that. Thank you for being so open, so vulnerable. You and I share a similar story, and I think we connect on that. And uh, it is very courageous to come on and share your story with people, and also really inspirational. So I really thank you for that. And I think your story is one that a lot of people struggle with as well. And I'd love to hear how you felt the binging and purging and the coping mechanism affected you from a lifestyle perspective.
Yeah, I think I look back on it with, you try not to have regrets. It's nice to say like don't have regrets, but like that's really hard to do. And I think the time that I lost being preoccupied with food and with binging and purging, and what that took away from other life experiences, relationships, and not that it, broke any relationships, but it definitely consumed me. And, so I think there was only like a part of me present for a really, really long time. And that, even now, it makes me so sad to think about that time lost.
Yeah, I relate completely. I feel exactly the same way about my own journey. I feel like I was half. I call it like the time when I was half a person.
Yeah.
And there is so much compassion that you have to have for that person, and that is part of the healing process, as you know. And I can relate so much to that as well, just what it takes away from you, um, connection wise, belonging wise, being able to participate in your life. I know. Yeah, completely.
Yeah, that is, I think probably the my number one thing is just, you know, and I could tell a million stories, of different things that I didn't want to go out because, either I was afraid that I would overeat, or, I would overeat and want to go home early. That just took away from the actual being with friends and being with family. Um,
Hmm. Completely. And so when we started working together, where were you emotionally? Where were you with your relationship to food, with the coping behavior, the stress? How were you when we started working?
I when I first, it's so funny. I can still remember where I was when I DM'd you. I think that's, I please do not ever minimize the impact you've had on my life. I remember so vividly the first time I messaged you over Instagram, and where I was in my life is, I think I just given up. Like I'd been like, this is who I am. I this is it. Like I had kind of given up on ever really getting better. And um and that's not to say there are ill health effects. I mean, it's not without consequence. I've had different things that, may not be related to the binging and purging, but they certainly could have contributed to that. So, I think my sort of just having given up was a little bit scary to think, because if I continued binge and purge, I do think it would have led to even more serious health consequences. But where I was just kind of giving up, I think I was probably binging and purging like on a bad week every day, and on a good week maybe 2 to 3 times a week.
Hmm.
So definitely a big part of my life.
Hmm.
My and it's funny, if you meet me outside of this podcast and outside of my relationship to you, I seem like a very high functioning individual.
When I get that.
Yeah. And so I think it would, I think a lot of people would be like, huh, I never would have thought that. And I think that's, something to consider. You don't always see it. You don't always know. People may seem very together, and this could still be going on in the background.
Oh, I'm 100%. I mean, first of all, nobody would expect that for me as well. So I totally understand that. Most people with binging and purging, or even disordered eating, that's not so obvious, which is where a lot of my clients fall most of the time, um, have to get to a place where it's impacted their quality of living so much that it's beyond anything, that it's beyond just physical, right? In order to invest in help, in order to really say, I need to make a change. And most of the people that I work with and that are in my world, most of them you would never really be able to see on the outside. They all have job. You work for Pfizer, you have a high, you have like a what's it called? Like a high power job. You're a mom, you have two kids, like it's a lot, and you keep it together. But I think that in order to really heal, you have to believe you deserve to heal. And then you have to be willing to say that this is something that I need to do for my life because I deserve to live.
And completely, it always reminds me of the duck. Like, they look very calm on the surface, and then underneath they're like, oh my God, I can't keep everything together. And I'm dealing with this issue that nobody knows about. And it, very, I mean, I say very few people would understand, but I think there's a lot more people that would understand than anyone really wants to talk about.
100%. That's why I wanted you to come on, because I actually feel like you are a really almost an ambassador, like a representative for so many women out there who have it together on the outside. It almost feels like, why do I deserve to, like, I could handle it, right? It's like,
Right,
I could
right.
handle it. Yes, this isn't great, but,
I'll
I,
deal with it. It's
yeah, and I have
fine.
too much else going on to prioritize this, focus on this. It's all keeping together anyway. So why would I rock the boat? But
Yeah.
I remember I have a different experience of when we chatted, and when we initially finally like got to talking, especially on, when I knew you wanted to do the program, and then we chatted on the phone. You were very, though maybe you think you were at the end and didn't think anything would work, you were very receptive to something working, and you were excited about the idea of something working, and you were ready to jump in.
Yeah, and I think that's such a big part of it. I was thinking through some of the topics that we wanted to go over today, and I was really, um, and I think if I could encourage anybody, if you think you're at the end, I think that if you have the right tools and you are receptive, there's no magic bullet. You definitely have to work in the program. But if you are willing to do that, these are the tools that you need. Like, that's it. Like, so even if you feel like you've tried everything else, if you have the motivation, here are the tools that you need.
I mean, first of all, I'm humbly accepting that. Like, that's beautiful to hear, and thank you so much. I believe that to be true because all the tools were grown out of so much learning, so much expertise, so much experience from me. Everything I teach you is something that I intimately know well and know works. And you also, I think you said something really astute, which is you were very motivated. You were skeptical and there was resistance, but in the end, you did do it. And I really want to hear from your own words, what you felt were some of the most transformative tools that you installed in yourself to get this amazing healing experience that I believe is truly authentic and truly something that's going to be lifelong for you now.
Yeah. So this is an easy one for me. And there are so many tips and tricks, and I think they work. And you put them in your toolbox, like putting your fork down in between bites and taking 3 breaths before eating. And I think those are all like amazing things to keep in your toolbox. And like sometimes you're like, this is great, this one's working for me, but then sometimes you're like, no, this one's not working. Let me pull out another one. And those I think are all amazing things to keep in your toolbox. But there's two things that the program changed for me. And the first was taking the shame out of it. You almost like if I put in my journal that I had binged and purged, it wasn't a judgment. It was almost just like this like hug saying like it's okay, like it's fine. And if you had told me a year ago I would be on a podcast talking about this, I would be like, you are out of your mind. I don't talk about this with anyone, like no one. And here I am. So the elimination of the shame, and just understanding that this was a tool, or this was a coping mechanism that was developed over years, and that's okay. Like it is okay that you binge and purge. Like, is it something you want to do forever? No, but there's no shame in it. You know, so that was the first thing. You eliminated the shame. The second thing, at some point you said to me, it was like one of those things that just like, man, like hit me right in the face. I was like, whoa. Um, a lot of the binging and purging would happen around uncomfortable feelings, or somebody like made me feel bad, or, I have teenagers, and let me tell you, they can be really mean. And you said, why would you punish yourself when somebody else has already made you feel bad by binging and purging? And I was like, whoa. I was like, I don't need to do this. Like, okay, I can sit with these like sad, hurt, angry feelings without reaching for food. And so those were sort of the two pieces I think that really changed everything for me, in addition to all the other wonderful tools that you practice and incorporate into your life. Like those are, I don't mean to minimize those, are their importance, but those are just the two sort of big moments during the program for me.
Yeah, no, I mean, thank you so much for sharing that. And I agree. I think taking the shame, taking the isolation, taking the feeling of it being all your own burden out of the equation. And almost, I always like to say that this isn't yours, right? So for all my clients, whether it's extra weight, a coping mechanism, I'm always like, this isn't yours. This isn't your weight. This isn't who you are, but it's something that you're doing and you are responsible to remove it. So you have to do the work if you want to make the change. But you have to initially take the shame out of it while being willing to be with it at the same time, which is something that you did amazingly. And from there, you can really create a whole new pattern of behavior, a whole new pattern of relating, see how this behavior, this relationship with food is influenced by all the other factors of your life, the environmental factors, the relational dynamics, everything. And you continue to refine that introspection. And you've done that. And you completely did that. And in so many levels, like an onion, right? We peeled an onion
Yeah.
peel over the year. I mean, over the, 10 months, 9, 10 months. And it's amazing. And I'm curious to hear how you feel your life is transformed now.
Yeah. So teenagers are still really mean. So that stress has not gone away. Work is still stressful. So it's interesting. Like everything is still there in terms of like the stress or the things that I would reach for. In fact, things are even more stressful right now with the holidays and work. A lot of biotech companies going through a lot of layoff seasons. So all of that is there. However, don't even feel the urge to binge and purge. I don't, when I feel that sort of stress, like that, and I think people hold stress in different places. Mine likes to sit like right in my chest, like I can't get a full deep breath in. And I go for a walk now, or I get up from my desk. And those are all sort of the different tools in my bag now. But I think it's more than just, I recognize like, oh, I feel very stressed right now. And almost just naming it, saying like, I am feeling a lot of stress. Like I need to do something about this, and it's not going to be with food. I don't eat when I'm not hungry, even if I'm out to dinner with people. I'll say, oh, you know what, I'm really not that hungry, and I don't feel bad about it. I don't feel that need to like eat just because everybody else is eating. And if I only finish like a small portion of a plate, like I don't feel bad anymore. And I coming to terms with and peace with those things. And there's also this less frenetic energy around eating. And I think it's because like if I am stressed, I know that's not a good time to eat also for me. Like that's sort of just like a wait till your cortisol levels have come down, and then eat if I'm really hungry.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Because I remember when we first started working together, you were very attached to food rules, right? I feel like kept you very, um, that kept you, I feel like you were very interested in me giving you food rules in order to make you feel safe. And I think that's a lot of people. And I push back on that with you a lot. Like I was like, you don't need food rules. You don't need food rules. So I'd love you to speak to that a little bit, because I do think that most people that come in again to work with me, or that get introduced to my work, come from that place, and have a hard time like really believing that without food rules like that, anything is going to be, you're going to succeed in any way, or hit or reach your goals. Because I know you also have, not a ton of weight goals, but like you were talking to me a little bit about weight loss and things like that. So
Yeah. So I love a rule. I love a structure. It's just part of my personality. It's just type A all the way. But, it's really been freeing not having rules. And albeit like when you were like, no rules, I was like, that's scary for me. And it really was scary in the beginning, but there's two sort of guiding principles that, evolved during the program. And, um, thinking about eating, no, I know I'm going to say it wrong, foods with more water, high water content foods. Did I say that
mm-hmm.
right? High water content foods.
Yep.
Um, they make me feel really good. And to be fair, that's a lot of fruits, vegetables. But I really do feel good after eating them. But I don't, like, if I'm not in the mood for a salad, I'm not going to eat a salad, because one of the things that you asked me, you were like, well, does that sound satisfying? And I'm like, it doesn't sound satisfying at all. I don't want a salad. and sort of being more intuitive around my food choices, with not only what do I think, would be the healthiest choice, but what's the healthiest choice that I will really enjoy at this moment.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's sort of that two-part question, whereas I think before with the food rules, it was like, well, how many macros do I have left for the day? And how much protein do I need?
And you also had a bunch of safe foods that I feel like
Oh,
a
yes.
lot too, right? Like you were
Yeah,
like you stuck to like four things, and it was,
it's true.
I feel like that also was interesting for us to work through too, right? The control runs deep in this situation.
It does. I was so tied to a shake for breakfast, pretzels for snack, and you'll be so glad to know I have like 3 bags of unopened shake mix because I forgot to cancel my subscription, and so like I never really drink them anymore. And Yeah, so in the pretzels, I can't tell you the last time I ate pretzels. I did think of you. I had some pita chips with a coconut tofu soup for lunch, but it was because I really felt like I
Yeah.
was still a little bit hungry. And I was like, you know what? I would really love um, some bread or carbohydrate, and I had a small bowl of pita chips with my soup. But those safe foods I don't even really turn to anymore, which is nice.
Oh, amazing. Yeah. I mean, intuitive eating at its finest. That's essentially what intuitive eating should be, right?
Yeah.
Which is the goal and where I believe you really have gotten to, which is so amazing.
I almost messaged you because I know we were talking, and like I have, again, in my head, there are foods that are breakfast foods and there are foods that are lunch foods and foods that are dinner foods, and they do not cross categories, like they stay in their category. And I almost messaged you because I had leftover sauteed vegetables and refried beans for like breakfast the other morning.
Yes. I love it. There's no
Yeah,
such thing as breakfast, lunch, and dinner
I
food.
know.
It's all food.
It's what sounded good to me. I was like, you know what? These are good choices. There's nothing wrong with, some legumes and some sauteed vegetables in the morning.
Ah, oh my God. Okay, so before we end, because I don't want to keep you much longer, but I want to know, how do you feel your life has really transformed? Because we talked about
Oh,
a lot about the not being present to your life, your relationships, feeling like half a person. So I want you to speak more to that, because that's really, at least when I work with women, that's the vision I want for them, and that's what I want everyone to see for themselves. And I really want to hear from your mouth and your words.
yeah. And I think I started to answer this and got distracted answering the first part of that question. So I apologize. Um, Gosh, Alana, I wish there's so many. I'm gonna try not to cry. There are so many moments that I have where I'm like, I don't need to go home because my stomach feels sick. And I'm not saying no to this event because I'm worried about what I'm going to eat or I don't know what's on the menu. And I've had so many small moments like that. Halloween. Halloween, I think I told you I had a couple peanut M&Ms, but I didn't feel the need to like eat all of the Halloween candy. And it was so much more fun and it was enjoyable because I was there. And I didn't feel like I had a restriction on my time because I had to go eat more or binge and purge. And that was Halloween. And then there's Thanksgiving. I didn't feel stuffed. And it like these moments where I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't feel stuffed. And I'm, watching Christmas movies on Thanksgiving night or whatever, that have just been, I don't know. I don't know a better word other than amazing. It has just been amazing to feel these little things that had been absent from my life for decades that now I feel so good. Like um, I everyone has that one pair of jeans. They're like, I'm going to fit into these again, right? Like,
Mhm.
is that a universal truth? Like, does everyone have a pair?
I think so.
I think right. I think it's a universal truth. And I finally was like, this is stupid. I'm going to get some wide leg jeans, which of course my daughter is like, who are you wearing like popular trendy jeans? But they fit great and I feel great in them. And buying clothes that just fit my body now, not worrying about like, do I need to lose 5 pounds? Like, I'm good. I'm just good.
Totally. Ah, I love it. I'm so happy for you, Katie. Seriously. I'm like, you know how much my heart is just so huge for you and for the work you've done and how inspired I am from you. And really, it's such a joy. And yeah, I just everything. Thank you so
Well,
much. Really.
likewise, like I said, I don't, if you ever wonder what you have meant to people, just call me and I will remind you. The impact that you have had on my life literally has shifted um, the direction my life was going and changed almost 3 decades of a behavior.
I mean, I receive that. I take that in, and I'm so happy. I'm thrilled, and I'm just so happy for you and the life that you're going to be able to continue to live free from this. And yeah, thank you so much, Katie. Thank
Thank
you for
you.
being here. Thank you for sharing your story. And yeah, thank you so much. Thank you,
Thank you.
everyone listening. Um, just a reminder, weekly episodes. Feel free to subscribe, like, share with your friends. Every week, I share episodes on emotional eating and how to overcome emotional eating, how to lose weight with lasting change. I have free resources on my website, www.bewellbyak.com. And until next time, I'm Alana, and thank you for listening to Emotional Eating Unwrapped.